All right, as promised, ladies and gentlemen, a little cheeky crypto update for this fine Thursday. All right, we'll start with Bitcoin. Now, I did a little bit of pre-planning here. Context remains the exact same as yesterday. We're still bearish. Even on the short term, we've got this demand here, so I'm expecting us to hit this demand sooner rather than later and get some sort of reaction from it. Probably a little bounce and a continuation. That's what I'm thinking, but only time will tell. And now you'll have noticed that I have got this range right here. The only reason I've got this chart up is because USDT dominance has created a very similar looking distribution range. But there's just not a whole lot that interests me in either range. So we've got, just because this is such low time frame, we can use this as demand. We don't normally use demand like this. We need it to be a bearish candle, but because of the time frame and how low context this is, we can use this as demand, as extreme demand. But this isn't something I'm ever going to enter. Just putting that out there right now, because there is no return to zone. We've moved down aggressively. We've left supply. There is supply there, which you can see on a lower time frame right there. Like we've come down, leaving behind supply. I don't think we're just going to randomly accumulate here. We've also broken through this demand here, so this is just overall showing that price is just still quite weak. So expect lower in Bitcoin. That is the point being there. Expect lower, and just have your levels marked out and monitor the reactions that we're going to get. So this is correlating inversely with USDT dominance, which is right now creating some form of distribution, but the exact same thing. You can't really short USDT dominance, but there is demand here. And yes, it's been ever so slightly mitigated, but just look at the bigger picture. There is so much more that hasn't been mitigated, and there is still quite an evident imbalance left here. There is also extreme liquidity there. That's like our only extreme liquidity POI, but same thing. USDT dominance, same thing as Bitcoin, but in reverse. Bullish all around, including low time frame. So we're just still trending up. I wouldn't even be surprised if we don't come back to this demand and just continue going higher. Right. So bias right now remains bearish for alts. Keep an eye out on that potential very low time frame accumulation which might form. Aave confirmed a model 2 distribution, which we didn't exactly catch. It hasn't been completed yet, but it does look like we're gonna eventually complete it. This got confirmed overnight. We'll leave that as is. Really nice distribution there. Render, maybe we'll accumulate. I don't know. We will leave that as is, and we will put our alerts on render. Boom. Cake. Let them eat cake. Breaking through demand. I expect lower, and our next target is this demand below. Yeah. This has all been mitigated. That's it. We've also left supply. Similar story. We're leaving supply behind. Why would we want to long this? It's crazy that there's one person out there on Twitter that's like, Cake's just I don't know. Cake's just broken out, and left behind demand. Cake's gonna go to the moon. I don't know what to say. XLM. that was obviously completed. Nice little 16 risk to reward. Could we distribute? Potentially. Absolutely potentially. Boom. Return to zone is quite nice. Obviously, this is very, very, very low time frame. So just have that at the back of your head, or in the back of your head. Boom, right there, extreme supply. So here is our POIs. So yeah, if we can come up, sweep this, this would be nice. We've obviously yeah, valid extreme supply. We've obviously confirmed this accumulation and have expanded for quite a while, so we can expect to see some form of exhaustion. There's also so much more demand below, so if anything, this could be a nice... Yeah, this could be a nice pivot point where we move back down, so we will see. Time-wise, this range has been developing for about... Not the best, not the worst, 10 hours, 45 minutes. Normally for me, like anything over 10 hours is decent. Like you'd be happy with that. Now it's just a matter of how are we going to move into these two potential POIs. That is my pre-planning for XLM. We can move that to the top. Awesome. Let's have a look at Tau. Not a whole lot. Tau is just slowly making its way back towards demand. This BNB setup is no longer of interest. Is there valid demand there? That's my question. Maybe a little local scalp, but we have left supply there. Just be aware of that. Yeah, I expect lower for BNB. I'm not going to try and accumulate there. Link. Link has tapped into demand nicely. Like all these are they're just too short low time frame scalps. I don't like these. I don't like these low time frame scalps on crypto. They're also, a lot of these pairs aren't the highest. Like obviously pairs like Link and BNB, even XLM, they're obviously going to have high volume. But it's just not like a Forex setup like that with a better return to zone. Like you take that in a heartbeat because Forex is just such high volume. But with crypto, you do just want to be a bit more careful. And that's also why with crypto, I like going for a slightly more higher, mid to higher time frame models, just because of that, like just because of the volume. And you know, it takes one person to pump in a few $1,000s on a certain pair, and bang, you've just swept a high, and you keep going higher all of a sudden, and the model's been invalidated. So yeah, when it comes to crypto, it's just something I am a lot more careful. A lot more careful with. We got demand here on Pepe. Sol same thing. We've got demand there, not expecting much until we move towards that demand. SUI is ripping through demand, but there's no price action here that shows me a potential distribution. Yeah, not a whole lot. And this is just too low time frame supply for me to really care about. It's also been slightly mitigated. Fart coin. That is so crazy that we're out here trading a coin called Fart coin. Like if you were to tell people in the future that how do you make your money? Oh look, I've actually just shorted Fart coin on 20x leverage, risking $2,000, and it was a 10 RR short, meaning I made $20,000. They're gonna be like, "You're crazy." I'll be like, "Nope." Just be careful. I was about to draw my range pull from there. You can't, because you're technically in a higher time, not high time. You're in an upwards market structure. So you can't just randomly draw your range from a higher low. Yeah. There is somewhat of an OBIF here. We'll obviously have to validate this on the lower time frame, as always. Is there overlapping market structure? I feel like there might be. Boom! I will allow this as my supply. Other than that, not a whole lot more than watching out for those levels with not really waiting for it to hit demand. So essentially, if you guys haven't figured out by now, I'm only pretty much looking for distributions. I'm looking for distributions, or if I'm not seeing any distributions, I'm marking out supply zones where price might form a distribution at. Litecoin. Well, I think we're regaining that higher time frame range. No, sorry, we're actually... No. I thought it was a high time frame distribution for a minute. That was the high time frame distribution. This is now just going lower. Doge. I expect us to hit that range low. Virtual, really nice there. That is no longer of my interest. Hype. Okay, now this is actually something I am kind of interested in. Hype has bounced from this demand ever so slightly. But what do I not like is the POIs that have been technically speaking, as much as this has grabbed liquidity to its left, it still is kind of liquidity because It's so close to this high. So I will allow this as being a extreme liquidity POI. But it's just not that clean. Yeah, and also with the fact that you have such high time frame demand below, you got to take this whole range with a grain of salt. So let's be patient for a further development of the price. Now this is some great liquidity, which you can bet your house that will get taken out. Yeah, this is just so clean. Definitely not the London high, that's for sure. Yeah, very clean. I would definitely be looking for distributions on Pump Fund. Nothing at the moment, unfortunately, but we will keep an eye out. That's my first level. It's already pretty low time frame, so I'm not too bothered. Quant, similar story. Not too interested in price at the moment. There could be overlapping demand here though. Yeah, it's valid. It is valid overlapping demand, so you can expect a reaction should we hit these levels. Well, guess what? We're in them. And you do get a reaction. Yeah, but overall, guys, the context is bearish for crypto. So as much as this demand is here, it hasn't grabbed anything to the left, and two, context is bearish, so expect lower. Simple. XMR, not a whole lot. XRP tearing through demand, that further showcases signs of weakness. Leaving supply there, not too interested. It's 15-minute supply. It's just, I'm not going to be charting up 15-minute supply on these pairs. As I've said, I'm looking for slightly higher time frame moves. So a 15-minute supply block or structure supply block is not going to interest me whatsoever. This might cause somewhat of a reaction. We'll see. And then Trump's probably just slower, lower and lower. So yeah, not a whole lot to do for crypto at the moment. Just expect us to go lower, and all I'm really paying attention to is this low time frame XLM potential distribution, which is actually pumping into extreme liquidity and is just about to sweep extreme liquidity. But nevertheless, there is still extreme supply above. So as much as we can break of structure, I don't think there's going to be anything to break of structure from anyway, from a RR perspective, and no, there isn't. That's our 1 minute low. Yeah, I want to wait until we mitigate this supply before I look further into a potential short. But yeah, that is that for crypto. I'm just going to check this USD CAD setup. Well, this just may have formed a very local Model 1. Yeah, so XLM has just grabbed extreme liquidity. So this has formed a Model 1. Beautiful return to zone there. However, we might be able to... Yeah. Yeah, local return zone is nice. However, we might be able to look for a extended tap right here. Very valid supply block. which we can use this as an extended tap POI. So overall, this is still possible to enter. Just obviously be careful that there is demand here. It is a highly counter context trade, as the sentiment is bullish across all time frames, I believe. Where is my yeah, we're bullish across everything. And there's also demand below, so just something to be aware of. But yeah, we're going to monitor how we come into this supply. I'm also going to calculate a potential short, and yeah, I'll definitely be monitoring if I'm awake. How we hit this demand. Well, there you go. Start off as a crypto market check, and we've still ended up talking about Forex. All right. All right, this is just a very rough calculation guesstimate, assuming that we might enter around here, and then obviously we might put our stop loss around there. 1.41253 approximate entry, and the stop loss, assuming we risk 0.5%, that would give us a lot size of 4.73. All right, that is it for today, guys. Yeah, hopefully you gained some value. If you haven't watched my Forex update for today, watch it. And that's it. Thank you all for listening, for viewing. Subscribe if you've made it this far, and I will catch you all on tomorrow's update.